kind of friends should I have? It's a pretty big deal.
The good ones.
Elaborate. What does good even mean? A lot of us, sometimes we're like, yo, I feel like I have good friends, but like we don't know that they could be unhealthy for us. What kind of friends should I have?
Loyal.
Preferably Christian, but just the kind that you know you can depend on, and some that can keep you accountable for being dependable on for them as well, you know, being good for each other.
You should have friends that, like she said, you can depend on, and like ones that you believe and know won't bring you down if they go down, you know? Like if they get in trouble, you're not getting in trouble with them too. If you don't do something.
Good influence.
You should have friends that you can grow with, spiritually, emotionally, just in general, just grow with.
I also think you need to have friends that will correct you and tell you when you're doing wrong and not encourage or just support what you're doing. Did anybody not hear me? No? Okay.
No, I thought that was good. Me and Jacob were talking about that just before service even started. You know, one thing is hard to find is a friend who's going to call you out on something, because typically you're like, if I call them out, then they're going to be like super hatred towards me, super bitter towards me. But yeah, that's a very healthy trait, is to have somebody who will correct you, but with love. Hey, go ahead and throw up that next question. How do you make friends? So not what kind of friends should I have, but I don't know how to get friends. How do I make friends?
Buy them on eBay. That's where I got mine.
Be a friend yourself.
Whoa, that's deep. Be a friend to yourself. Oh. Wait. Wait, what?
Like, be a friend.
Oh, be a friend. Comma yourself. The apostrophe. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Elaborate on that, Bryson. What does that mean? Your name is Bryson. Be a friend yourself. How do I make friends? How do you be a friend?
Be friendly.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, if you're mean to everybody, you're not going to have friends. But also, don't be somebody else you're not. Like, be yourself, and people will like you, and they'll attract to you. But if you're rude to everybody or don't talk, everybody's going to think you're rude. Like, just be yourself, be happy.
If you're yourself, then you'll find people who are, for lack of a better term, attracted to you as a friend, and like that is the start of a really good relationship, because then you guys like understand each other, you're on the same wavelength and everything.
Don't be fake.
Nobody wants a copycat. Like, nobody wants someone that just says like, oh, I want this ice cream. Oh, me too. Oh, me too. Like, it's annoying when someone does that, right? But also at the same time, like, you don't want to be that to someone else either. So the thing is, I think we all get like insecure, and when in the stage when we're like making friends and that kind of thing, we all get insecure and feel like we have to agree, and we have to like on the same things, and we have to do all this, and we have to like the same music, and we have to like this. And I think it, like with what Mariah said, just being yourself, I think people are drawn to authenticity. And so when you can just be who you are and be confident in who you are, that draws people in. And yeah, it may not draw in your best friends, but you can be friends with everybody, you know. And then it will. I mean, there will be people that will, like Mariah said, love you for you, and then you just click, and it's awesome. But I would just encourage you guys to be authentic and figure out who you are and be that person. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to be what you think someone wants you to be so you can fit in. Everyone's insecure. Everyone's not sure what they're doing. No one knows what they're doing. And if people are acting like they do, they're crazy, because they don't. No one knows what's cool. None of y'all cool. I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
All right, throw out that next question. What should I do if my friend has gone down a bad path, but no matter how hard I try, I can't get them back?
I like this question. Okay, it is not your job to bring your friends back on the right path. They have to want it for themselves, and no matter how hard you try, you can't change them, and you can't change their ways. So you continue to do what you're doing and be a positive influence, and that'll eventually rub off on them because they're going to realize that, hey, they're so much happier than I am. They're doing all these things right. Like, what am I doing wrong? And they're going to kind of see the difference. So it's not your job to get them back on the right path.
And just because your friends change for the worse, or if they're going down a bad path, that does not mean you change your ways whatsoever.
Or leave them.
Yeah.
Stay there and be by their side and encourage them, but don't change your ways for them.
I would pray for them too, because, and like pray for how you can help them. So.
Prayer is powerful.
Yeah, we can't forget that we're in a church right now. So, like, man, I have a friend that's just gone down a bad path. What should I do? Well, there's a leadership skill that I learned yesterday. No, like, dude, pray for that person. Like, I mean, that's the thing we talked about letting go tonight, letting go of control. And, you know, Lainey said the same thing about, like, you can't fix them, so don't try to take control and fix it. You know, for me personally, like, my mom, we were super close and still are very close. But, like, there were points where I felt like it was my responsibility to make her feel better, or to, you know, because family can be friends as well. But I felt like it was always my responsibility to make her happy, and if she was unhappy, it almost made me unhappy. How many of you feel like when your friends are in a bad mood, you're in a bad mood? And so, like, it's a good observation to say, like, I'm not going to take this upon myself to try to fix it, because then you just place this unintentional pressure on yourself, and then you start hurting yourself about it emotionally, and you stay up at night thinking, what could I have done better? And then you start almost like degrading yourself because you're trying to take the place of God, essentially.
Like I said, don't change yourself. If you do come to the point where, like when you're around someone for so long, for a long time, periods of time, their ways are gonna they're gonna rub off on you. You're gonna tend to do the same things. So if it gets to the point where they're not going down a good path at all, and you feel like you're going down, you're straying from the right path, you need to distance yourself until you get yourself strong again.
That's good. That's really good. Anybody else got something on this? No? Next question? I'll check my circle. How do I change my circle? Ooh.
Does this mean change like get
Like
better
change.
friends, or like
Yeah, don't.
no, not like better friends,
Yeah.
but like
Let's answer it from the both perspectives, so we don't put the person on the spot, whoever asked this question. From the perspective of how do I change my friends completely, or how do I just like you said previously, change my, I don't know, like,
surroundings.
yeah, essentially. Start with the first one.
The
How do I change? Like, I've checked my circle and I've realized they're really bad for me. What do I do?
Okay. From changing them, you can't, like we said, you can't change somebody. You can just be a good influence on them. Like, show them how happy and how prosperous a life with God is, and they'll learn from that, hopefully. But like we just said, don't strain yourself. Don't hate on yourself because your friends are doing worse than you are. You can just pray about it.
Also, you're either being influenced or you're being the influencer. So either way, either they're going to rub off on you or you're going to rub off on them. So I would also be very cautious of if your ways are changing, because if you're around a bunch of people that don't believe the same things you do, it's going to be hard to stay in your own path and be strong, like if you're around a bunch of Christians or whatever.
One thing that I've noticed is a lot of us, and I said this in my previous sermons, but like a lot of us don't want to make new friends, and it's just a challenge in general. It's something we're not comfortable with. You know, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Me and Garrett, I come up to him on Wednesdays and I'm like, let's go to the library, and he's like, wait, what? You know, okay. He'll say okay, but it's like then you have to meet all of these new people. It's like, because my group's over here, but then my circle, and then these people, it's going to be hard to like bring people into these circles, because number one, it's hard to make new friends because you already feel like you're intruding on someone else's life, but you genuinely never know how things are going to react or how things are going to go until you actually put yourself out there. I noticed when I was in high school, I had a group of people that I tried to stay close to, and I didn't want to go anybody else. And then I started like making very small conversation with people I didn't even know. And so if someone was like in the hallway and they were walking up towards me, I'd be like, yo, what's up? And there I'm like, I don't even know this person's name. I don't know who they are. And I would just say that stuff. And then later on the next day would be like, what's up, girl? And then like, oh, should I have said that? You know what I mean? And then it's like, you start making small conversation with people, and you have to, in order to change your circle, sometimes you don't know that people are looking for someone to be in their circle, and they don't trust anyone, so you may be the first person they're letting in.
I changed circles in high school. That sounds weird. I moved to a new high school in 10th grade, and for a year I got to know the popular people, whatever you want to call them, cheer team people, I don't know, whatever. But we were all real close, and they were partying and stuff, and I wasn't going to go to that. So, like, it started getting where they just didn't invite me to things, and, and that's fine because I wasn't going to go anyways. But we just started getting distant from each other. And so I put myself out there in different, like, activities. Like, I started getting into, like, our drama department, and that's where I made, like, my friends who I still talk to from high school, who I'm like really close with. But it's weird, between my sophomore and my junior year, I had two completely different sets of friends. And there was a point in between those where I was sitting alone at the lunch table because I was no longer felt comfortable at one lunch table. So I went and sat to the other, and those friends that I was making in the drama department showed up and started sitting with me, and it was like, I don't know, and none of them were Christians when it started out with, but it was like they came to me because they knew I needed a friend. They saw someone sitting alone, and I think sometimes you have to do the hard thing when there's a circle that you're not, a part of or meshing with because they're not making smart life choices. I think sometimes you have to be willing to sit alone,
Lexi has something.
I said you can't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and just try something new.
Yeah, that's how I found friends in college. People they sat around me while I was by myself. All right, throw out that next question. What is the hardest part of having non-Christian friends, if you have any? What's the hardest part of having...
Temptation.
What's the hardest part of having non-Christian friends?
He said temptation, and that is a big part of it, like the influencing. Because if you're around friends who are cussing, who are listening to this type of music, who are juuling, I don't know, whatever, then they jewel. People jewel, and it's a thing. So if you're around those people who do that kind of thing, then eventually they're gonna start being like, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you cuss? Why don't you listen to this music? Here's this person, they cuss a lot. I don't know. And it's like tempting because it's like peer pressure. It's like peer pressure, and it's really hard if you're in with a group of non-Christians for them to tempt you to do non-Christian activities. And that is like one of the hardest things.
I think also if you're around that stuff, things are going to become less sensitive to you. Like if you're going in as a strong Christian, people cussing around you, whatever they're doing, shouldn't bother you. Like you shouldn't want to be around that stuff. So the more you're around it, the less effective it is on you, and then you're going to end up following the crowd and doing what everybody else does.
I was just going to say, I don't know. They kind of already said it because I was just going to say it's hard to stay on your path whenever somebody else is on the opposite path of you. So you guys are like clashing, constantly clashing, and you can't.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I'll be a little vulnerable right now. I had a moment in high school when I'm already stuttering because I'm scared to say it. No, I had a moment in high school, and I told Bailey this, and she cracked up at me because she thought it was funny, but it was actually really stupid. I went to a lake house with a bunch of my friends that were, partiers, and that wasn't my crew, my circle, and my kind of people were like, we go and like throw rocks at trash cans and think it's absolutely hilarious. It was just so dumb. And so I was like, I'm gonna step out of my comfort zone. I'm gonna go hang out with these actual partiers, these people who go crazy. And we went to this lake house, and they were the typical scene, bro. It was like beer pong, and it was crazy. They were throwing them in cups, and I was like, I'm a hyper person. I can be the life of the party. So I just grab a cup of water, and I start drinking this water, and I am literally acting like I'm drunk as crap. I'm just bouncing off of things. Like, I honestly, at one point, I hit the table, fell off, got up, and was like, like just laughing, okay? And everyone was like, dude!
I feel like you would do that normally.
Like, I would, and that was my personality. And so, like, I realized, like, I was doing that stuff just to, like, fit in with this opposite crowd, and, how they're talking, it's like, you would do that stuff because you want to feel accepted, and you want people to, notice you. And I was simply doing it because I was like, this is crazy. I feel so left out. So literally after I was done doing that, like I went to a corner. This is like a trailer, okay? So like imagine from me to where the piano is. I'm sitting over there by myself, like on my phone that I just barely had anything on it. I was already trapped, and people were like staring at me. These people are crazy over here, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? I need a cup of water. Like, what did they do to this? It's just like, and so I just noticed that I would try to like risk my character just trying to fit in with people. And this question, what's the hardest part of having non-Christian friends, is like the like Bryson said, the temptation of getting sucked into their habits and their lifestyle just because you don't feel like you fit in. And maybe that's when you start questioning who your circle really is.
It's also hard to have the deep conversations when you're not on the same level spiritually. Like, like we as the girls, we like to sit and just talk like real deep, like God, like on all our trips and stuff, we always like to talk. And so it's like, it's hard when you don't have that. You may have a best friend who just doesn't believe that way. I have a couple friends, and it's like, it's hard because you just can't get to that point with them. But that's hard. I don't know. It says what's hard. That's hard.
And they may feel like you're judging them, so they may not see it as you reaching out to them for help. Like, they may just think, she's a Christian that's judging me. Like, that's what non-Christians believe, like that we're here to judge them, when that's not the case.
Yeah, you should be the person that they can confide in. Next question, D. What kinds of friends should I hang out with?
I feel like we covered this.
We
on
did.
Number one.
That first one. Let's go to the next one. How do I witness to my friends that don't know I'm a Christian?
If your friends don't know you're a Christian, then
I can see, though, like in middle school, you're not as like, I don't know, you're not as just, like the younger ones who are in here, they're not as out there as like, you haven't got to the point of high school where you know everybody and you know where everyone goes to youth group and you know all this stuff about everybody. So like, if I'm speaking to like you guys who are just now starting, like jumping into Elevate and jumping into middle school and like all that stuff, I would just say radiate the love of Jesus. Like, people will be changed by the joy you have and by the love of Jesus shining through you. And so like, don't ever let that like die, I guess.
also saying that, you don't have to shove Jesus down people's throat to get that across. If you just be you, people will be able to see the love of Jesus off of you, and then they'll attract to that.
Just don't be a hypocritical Christian. Hypocritical. Don't be a hypocritical Christian, because that's hard for non-Christians to see. Is, you go to youth group, you love Jesus, you're worshiping Jesus, but then you're at school cussing up a storm, or you're at school cussing somebody out, or I don't know, whatever y'all do.
And that makes us look bad when we're like, we love Jesus, and they're like, oh, you're just like this other person because they said they love Jesus, and they acted a fool, and they're like, I don't want to be a part of this purpose or this movement, because everything's a movement now, but like, I don't want to be a part of that because everything is wishy-washy. I can't. One person says they love Jesus, but they're acting like the Satan's son, you know what I'm saying? And then the other person says they love Jesus, and they're setting a good example. I don't know who to trust because it sounds like this person's going to fail me one day as well. I think back to what we were saying, authenticity. That's how do I witness to my friends that don't know I'm a Christian? Even when something comes up, you do have that opportunity. I was on Instagram the other day and saw this. Actually, Bailey, I think she was on Twitter or something, but it was a football player. I can't remember if it was from Arkansas or not, but he was talking about something, and they were asking, how do you do it? How do you do it? And he said, it's because of my Savior Jesus Christ, and like they just cut the news off, and she said, oh, I'm sorry, we just lost him. But it's like, ain't nobody want to hear Jesus on national television, because that's just not what people, it seems like a preference nowadays. And so when there is an opportunity where someone's just like, man, I feel like I'm unsatisfied in life, and I feel like I'm just digging holes, and I'm trying to fill the holes in my heart with this, and you can finally have that opportunity where you're like, man, I'm happy. It's because of Jesus. And you don't have to be like, going to super Bible, but just, it's as easy as Jesus filled my heart when I felt empty too. I get where you were. It's just that relevance. Got anything? Nobody? Next question. How do you fix something with a friend that doesn't want to talk to you?
I have some words for this one. I was talking to my mom about these questions before I came here, and she had some good advice on this as well. So, if, like, say you guys had like a fight or something, and this person just shuts you off, like they do not want to talk to you, they do not want to hear from you, like, at all, then that's probably at the point where they're still heated about it. So you should probably just step back and give them some time to heal and to calm down, because like nobody's gonna be like, I don't want to talk to you like 5 months after it happened, unless there are some people who might do that. But just give them some time and some space, because they need to heal as much as you do. And eventually, when you can talk to them, and maybe they still aren't trying to be friends again or really talk it out and fix things, then you tried and they're just not cooperating. You took the higher road, and that's all you can do at the moment. So just always be there for them if they need you as a friend, but you just know that you tried your hardest with them.
I also think if this is from like a middle school standpoint, friends, like, I know when I was in middle school, people would break up, like friends would break up all the time, and they would just go find somebody else. Like, it's also a maturity thing. So if somebody's not wanting to talk to you, apologize, let them cool down, kind of like what she said. But if you're in middle school, just know that it's not the end of the world. Like,
they'll be over it in a day or two.
Well, that's what we were talking about, being aware of your disappointment. In the moment of disappointment, you're probably one of those friends as well that are being the one that is overreacting, and you're probably the one that's like, I'm not talking to them forever. I'm going to hold this grudge forever because they said this or they did this. And yeah, like Laney said, it's a maturity thing, but like better to learn now than just to hold a grudge over something because something small or minute happened. Like, you can fix whatever, and if it's not working, like, I think there are times where it's just like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. But like, if you have a history with that person, and literally y'all like grew up together, y'all were babies, y'all were like slapping each other in the face, like wham, like push, slapping each other, like there's no reason for that to end if it's over something that you haven't communicated. And so, like, if you don't talk to each other about it, yeah, I suggest that nothing will actually come out of it. But if you actually take the high road, like she was saying, and actually talk to them, that might be your first step. Is there's miscommunication. Why do people break up? Because somebody has a thought, and then the other person doesn't recognize what that thought is because they never verbalized it. And so communication is, I mean, if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you can't have that relationship if you don't communicate. That's one of my big things.
Going back to middle school, some people are not mature enough to know what a true friend is. So they could be missing out on what you are, and it wouldn't be your fault, and you just have to let go.
If it were me, so whenever me and someone else have an argument or something happens, sometimes I'm not ready to talk about it, or I don't have the words to express my feelings right now. But it helps if they come to you and they're like, you don't have to talk, just listen, and you tell your side of it. Even if the person isn't ready to talk yet, they'll come around. So.
Smart. All right, next question, D. Why does your friend talk behind your back?
They aren't your real friend.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
We all gossip. Like, let's not act like we haven't gossiped. I think the root I think the root of gossip is insecurity. And so when you're talking about someone else, or when someone else is talking about you, it's because they eventually just you eventually realize, oh, like, I'm saying this to make myself feel better, or I'm saying this to make myself look better. Or even if someone does something to you, you go, guess what she did? And then you want your friend to be like, oh, nuh-uh, girl, no, she didn't. You want them to, like, reciprocate it back. It's so that you'll feel better about yourself. And so it's all rooted out of that insecurity. So when someone's talking about you behind your back, don't be like, you're insecure. But just know just know that that's where that's coming out of, that they don't feel good enough. And then you can, if you know the root behind someone's reasons, then you know how to fix things with them. So knowing they don't feel good enough, maybe go tell them they look pretty that day, or maybe go give them a compliment, or be Jesus even when it's hard. I know it's hard to do when someone's been talking about you, to go and be nice, but
I think also, if they're talking behind your back, it's probably the group they're around. Because if everybody's talking bad about people, they're going to chime in because they're around everybody. And that's the vibe that they're giving off. But yeah, I think insecurities also goes with that.
Yeah, Lexi and Bailey's kind of hit the same thing. Be Jesus to them, kill them with kindness. It's like the number one way you fight someone who's angry at you. Someone's like, I hate you. Aw. Like, what can I do for you?
pretty.
What?
Oh my gosh, you're so pretty.
You're so ugly. Can we be friends? You know what I mean? Like, kill them with kindness. All right, throw out that next question. What is the definition of a fake friend? Someone who talks about you behind your back. No, what? Okay. Who has some experiences where you're just like, yup, don't say names, but you knew?
Bryson?
No.
Well, sometimes the definition of fake. Well, it can kind of vary. Like, there are different types of like fake friends. Like, there are some friends who are only friends with you because they have something to gain from you, like
money.
Like money, yeah, or free car rides, which is kind of money in a way, like just, or popularity even. Sometimes if you're the popular person and they just like want to be popular too. There's like all sorts of different like fake friends, and you just have to like notice that whenever you need them and they're not there for you, but every time they need you, you're there for them, that is a sign that you might have a fake friend. Because like a true friend is like always there for you, even if they're having a hard time too.
Okay, I also think if you are like best friends with somebody and they turn your back, it is very, very hard to realize that they're fake until they do something like super big. You know what I mean? Like if you're so caught up in what they're doing in their life and y'all do everything together, you're not going to notice those things because it's going to become a natural thing. Like it's not something new, if that makes sense. You're just so caught up in everything they do. And I didn't say, and you kind of lose your identity in those friendships, and then when they're taken away, you're like, well, like I have nothing left because we did everything together.
I just think like when you're in friendships with people, make sure it's always two-sided. I've been in friendships with people where I realize, okay, they're not asking how I'm doing, they're not listening to what I'm saying, they're not, but then they want me to listen to everything they're saying, and they want me to be invested in everything they're doing. That's a fake friend, in my opinion. They're one-sided, and it may not be because they're trying to gain something from you. It may just be that they're really selfish at that point in their life, and they haven't figured out how to be the other side of a friend. But watch out for people like that. I'm not saying don't be friends with them, but I'm just saying know that when someone's being that way, that person isn't caring for you, reciprocating the care for you. I cannot talk tonight, so it's fine.
All right, next question. What if it's my family, not my friends? And I believe this is the last question. What if it's my family, not my friends?
What is this asking?
Yeah.
I think,
Like, what if they're fake? Is that what they're asking?
no, like, I think it's all based on your circle. Like, check your circle. What if it's my family, not my friends?
Family is blood, but you can still be your own person.
Yeah.
So you can do your own thing. You don't have to follow in their footsteps because they don't define you. You define you.
I think, like I said about the whole family thing, a lot of times it kind of hurts when you feel like your family is supposed to be the closest thing to you, and then they're not, because that's what we're talking about. Your circle is your closest people that you can depend on and you can talk to, and then that you can need them for anything. And some of us on this stage, can speak from experience that I was never able to confide in my family. Because of this or because of that, and it was just because it was made difficult for us. And so I would say from experience and from things that I've heard from people who have struggled with this is sometimes your family, you're supposed to be that example for them, but sometimes because your family is that person or is that circle that you can't count on, you got to find a circle that you can count on. And sometimes they're your closest friends and they're your best friends, and those are the people that you go to college with or that you have jobs with and that you end up traveling with together and making best friends with those people. And one day your family will come around and they'll start to notice some of those things and be like, man, I don't even know why they've distanced themselves, and maybe it's because every time they confided in me, I just blabbed everything they said, and so I would say if you are struggling with, your family is not your circle, I would say, man, find some people, close people around you, your friends, and really find some investment in those people.
Yeah, and something that I've learned throughout the years is that family can come from literally anywhere, even some places that you don't expect. I'm in band, and whenever going into it, there were so many people, and I didn't know any of them, and I was like, maybe I'll get to know half of them by the time I get it to be a senior. But now I know every single person in that band, and they are all so close. We're so close. We're family, and I did not expect that at all. It's just something that in whatever circumstance you can find family from anywhere, and they can be people that you depend on for almost anything. So
I think it's okay to walk away from a toxic relationship, whether that be a friend or family. I don't think you have to sit and be in a toxic relationship just because they're your family. But I do think that to cut someone off completely, I think you need to keep at least some kind of contact so that if they choose, to come to Jesus or to that you're that person that they can get a hold of, and you're not just completely cut off. But I also think you got to honor your parents. So I don't want to sit here and say cut yourself off from a toxic relationship without saying if they're your parents, you have, the Bible says to honor them. So that's above even that. So yeah.
All right, guys. Well, man, that about sums it up. The reason why we did this check your circle series is because, man, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. The people you surround yourself with are very important. And like we all talked about influence, you can be the influencer or you can be influenced. There's 2 more questions? Are you sure? D, is there 2 more questions? Well, then how do you react when your friend isn't there for you when you need them the most? Sorry about that.
We did kind of touch on that. Yeah, we did.
I also think if they're not a fake friend, they also may be going through something that they're not willing to talk about. So if they're not being a friend to you, be a friend to them. I don't know. I mean,
Call one of us.
find somebody
Yeah,
else
yeah.
to rant to.
Call me or Micah. We're here.
Yeah, and
always.
I feel like sometimes also if your friend isn't there for you in a specific situation, like maybe they're there for you all the time, like 99% of the time, but that 1% they're not there for you, they might just not know how to handle it. Like, 'cause there's some problems that I have that like Bailey won't really understand, and she can still be there for me, but like she might not know exactly how to handle it well. So just know that like there are some circumstances where maybe they can't be there for you, but like if they're not ever there for you, then that's like something you should really think about.
And sometimes if they're not there for you, they might be going through the same thing. And you guys are in the same situation. So they're trying to figure it out too.
I think that you should like confront them. Like if you know that they're not going through that, or even if they are, like really just go up and talk to them face to face. Don't try to like text them and try to get them to answer. Like walked up to them in school and talk about it for a minute, like no matter what it is. Because if they're your best friend, then you can talk to them about anything.
D, do we have one more question? Yes. Last one. Okay. Why is friendship important?
So many reasons.
I think it's different. It's definitely different to have a friendship and from a relationship. Like a friendship and a guy-girl relationship. Let me rephrase that. I think you need somebody that you can confide in, and somebody that, again, will correct you when you're wrong, and somebody that will keep you accountable when nobody else will.
And sometimes friendship, you become so close with someone that they're like your family, and sometimes you don't have family that feels like family, and so you can find family in your friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can really learn from your friends too. Like with Lainey, she said that you guys can influence each other and be accountable with each other. You can always learn from somebody else's perspective over anything. So it's really good to have friends to grow.
I have a Bible verse I want to read, but I cannot find this stupid book. There it
How
is.
dare you say stupid book? Oh my God.
Sorry. Okay, I found it. It's about friendship. So since we're in a church, I want to read it. Since we're talking. It's Ecclesiastes 4:9 through like 12, I think. It says, 2 are better than 1 because they have good reward for their toil. But if they fall, one will lift up his friend. But woe to the one who is alone when he falls, and there's not another one to lift him up. Again, if 2 lie together to keep warm, how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. But a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. I cannot talk. Me and my best friends growing up, that was like our verse. We always were like, this is we're a triad. This is our verse. A cord of 3 strands, not easily broken. But it's so true. it's so important to have friendship. It's so important to have community. And so if you don't have it at school, you have it here. And if I'm sorry if you don't feel like you have it here, but you have me, and you can come to me. But it's so important to have someone to be able to talk to be able to confide in and have accountability. So.
And it's hard to spread the word of Jesus and to spread his love if you don't try to have friends and if you don't have friends.
How are you going to reach people?
And your friends know people that you don't. So it's just a effect. So.
Well, I mean, everybody in here, you know, who can confidently say, like, yes, I love Jesus. He is my heart and soul. He's everything that I am. You want that for your friends, too. You know, if you've embodied that calling, you know, you think, like, a calling is Pastor Mike as a youth pastor. I'm not called to that. But you are called to serve God. And when we serve God, we serve his mission and his purpose, and that his mission and purpose is people in general. So, like, the person that you're mad at right now, that's his person. The person that you've been distancing yourself from, that's his person. The person that you've held bitterness in and unforgiveness in towards, that's his person. And so, like, people in general are his